Hello everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a look here at Bitcoin, see what's going on here, of course, on a Sunday, and help understand kind of best practice for big picture and what's going to happen likely this week. Now, if you're new to the channel, I am not a financial advisor. I just love teaching people how to trade. I really hope you can learn something here today. If you do want to become a better trader, of course, as per usual, CryptoCache.tech is a website where you can learn and grow as a community member. But more importantly, I send out signals for every trade that I take, so you learn how to structure my trades, or your trades, of course, the way that I do it. And more importantly, I think than any of that is a trading academy that teaches you the fundamentals of being a better trader. And those are all things that I teach in depth in my trading academy, available through CryptoCache Premium. So check that out in your own time. So taking a look here at Bitcoin, obviously there's not a lot of movement this weekend. We've seen a low amount of volume, which has happened the same thing both weekends in the last two to 3 weeks. Okay, so if we can kind of speculate the fact that every weekend we've seen low volume, and pretty much every Monday we've seen a sell-off, we can anticipate a sell-off tomorrow. However, if we kind of look a little bit closer, obviously we had a sell-off on this Monday, but that's because we tested that support level and of course lost that support. But now that we've tested 39,000 a few times, it doesn't seem like the price wants to come much lower either. So there's also that argument too. And then obviously as well, I did misspeak. April 18th was a Monday, and we saw a significant green day, but it did start off with a red. It started off in the red on Sunday night. So if you see some red tonight, there's a possibility it could recover. But once again, this is a very large bear flag, and we got to acknowledge the fact that the price could come down. Okay, so it could continue to come down. Now, we've been relying on this support trend to essentially continue, higher. It hasn't officially broke it, but it's basically below. I mean, you could pretty much say this is a break. And for lack of better terms, the next available support would be roughly 37,500, or just in general 38.5 as a round number. So if you were to kind of round up and just go with the most recent low, then 38.5 would be the lowest. But generally speaking, what I want to see is nothing lower than 37,500. Okay, and the reason why 37.5 is important is because we're still making higher lows at this point, and in order to have a good continuation of the upside, we need to have a bounce off of 37.5, 38.5, or even just stay at 39 and continue higher. It needs to get off the pot here soon, if that makes any sense. we need something to happen, and it's interesting because it feels like we're right at the precipice of either a really strong increase or a really strong decrease. It kind of feels like it's preparing and getting ready for either a massive dump or a massive shot to the upside. There's no other way around it. But the bottom line here is we need to close today, I would say, in the 40,000 plus range at minimum, to ensure that we're still continuing to trend higher going into the week. All right, so again, just some random speculative stuff that are kind of based on the day that we see here so far. But the bottom line is we are both, we're under both moving averages on this time frame, and I believe the 4 hours still. We're under 50 on the RSI. We have a MACD divergence, so to speak. While it's not gaining momentum, it's kind of plateauing. It certainly isn't a shift in momentum to the upside like we saw recently. That got stopped out really hard right around 43. So again, some big picture stuff here I've covered yesterday, obviously with the worst case and the better case scenarios. But generally speaking, right now, I think it's probably best to kind of wait on the sidelines and let Bitcoin make up its mind, because anytime we see any progress here, it gets instantly rejected. And let's take a look at the 4 hour, of course, a little more specifically. We can see both moving averages are trending above the price action. That's disadvantageous. But the 50 doesn't work its way down naturally. So as it's working its way down, we could break back up above, but we are still under 50 on the RSI, essentially telling us that we have a strong resistance level, not only at 40,500, but also 40,000 even. And we can see that a little bit more definitively on the 1 hour. But generally speaking, there's nothing really super positive here. We have I guess you could say that's a potential MACD convergence, which actually in most cases on the 4 hour is probably the best one to utilize. but I would not use that as your only indication of taking a position. Okay. But the truth in the sense here, the proof is in the pudding, you could say, because we can see that we are starting to lose bearish, continuation, and the likelihood of an increase from here is higher based on that sentiment. Again, never trade only on one indicator at a time. We're looking at everything to kind of compile a large list of what could and couldn't happen, and kind of just increasing the odds in either direction. I like that we have a MACD convergence, but on the same accord, we don't really have much price momentum going into that, so it doesn't matter too much. And with low volume of the weekend, there's not a lot we can really pull from that. We need a strong volume week this week, which I'm sure we'll see a lot of volume, but it needs to be volume in the right direction. So hoping for one of these here again, so we can get kind of out of the doghouse and back on track. Would be nice to see that, because a lot of altcoins right now are suffering. They're selling off a lot more than they really need to, and it's kind of egregious, but it's also understandable too, considering the market. And I had some folks comment too as well in some of my recent videos, and why don't I cover the war that's going on, the inflation? Well, that's all implied, honestly. Like that's baked in here to an extent. That's really just essentially causing the price action to stay fairly stagnant, and there's a lot more fear, uncertainty, and doubt because of it. So again, definitely okay to acknowledge that, but we haven't seen a specific fundamental catalyst recently that's just drove the price hard. For the most part, this is all just whales taking profits from the last increase. That's all there is to it. And now that they're down here to a support level, a lot of retail investors are trying to get in at 39 to 40 because they feel it's a good value long term. And there's a lot more HODL accounts essentially holding at this price point. So that tells me that we could and should likely see an increase overall. But how much lower could it go? It could still go lower. Okay, we got to acknowledge that too. So it could totally go lower before it goes higher. With this bear flag, I'm starting to think that that's more of a reality. However, we still need this. I think this week's going to be a definitive address. In other words, we're going to know if 39,000 can hold, or if 40,000, 40,500, 42,000 can be broken. Those are now essential support and resistance levels. So 39 to 42 is still kind of the channel that I'm expecting the price to range within for quite possibly the remainder of this week. But I really hope we can have a definitive direction, even if it's going down, just so we can kind of get on track with that. Because right now it kind of just feels like we're on the edge and it could fall or it could shoot up. It just kind of has that feeling that we're preparing for something. Again, I could totally be off. I hope that I am, and that we just see some nice, range trading for a few more weeks, so we can continue to, do all right. But these sharp increases and the sharp decreases are just not helping at all. Like every single altcoin that gets its momentum, gets its legs back, is just cut right in half because of it. And it can be frustrating. So I totally relate with you. I know my community members too also are, curious, like, hey, when's this going to happen? I mean, truth be told, no one really does know when the price will reverse. But based on the overall sentiment here, it's feeling and starting to get more bearish as the days go on. And once again, we take it day by day, but at this point, there's a strong resistance. In fact, let's talk about that just really quick. We got, 30, we could say 39.9, but I would just say round number 40,000, because that's pretty much right here. You can see the price came up initially, got rejected at about 39.8. Then we got rejected again at 40,000, 39.9, 39.9, and then just here again today at 39.9. So it's not terrible considering the fact that this is just a full-on weekend. And you look at the amount of volume here, it's abysmal compared to the work week, right? So hypothetically, Monday comes around and we see an increase in volume. Which direction do you think it's going to go? I personally feel like we're due for a correction to the upside, just based on this obnoxious, ridiculous decrease in price here recently. But again, most signs right now overall are pointing down. So why would the price just randomly increase? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, and it could very well happen. We see it happen frequently. But it's just a lot of price manipulation, and we're kind of small fish in the big sea here. And those whales are just having fun. They're eating their chubs, and they're having a good time. And unfortunately, we get kind of got caught in the crossfires a lot. So I recommend to be safe in this environment, to be kind of, obviously be frugal at this point. Try not to take too many trades, because a lot of them are not going the way that you'd like. But more importantly, ask yourself, what you want to do in the big picture. Are you a long-term investor? Are you a short-term investor? What are you specifically focusing on to get to where you need to go? Like, is cryptocurrency, you feel, going to be big someday? I mean, it's already massive, don't get me wrong, but is Bitcoin going to be higher value? My speculation is yes. So I am dollar cost averaging whenever possible. I have a weekly buy-in every weekend, essentially, to ensure that I just constantly average my price down, and then of course average it up essentially when the price is going up. You still buy regardless of the time frame, but the important thing is to consistently be doing so. At least that's just my personal opinion. Again, I'm more of a long-term focused kind of guy. I would rather do that than just day trade every single day and just spend my money. I'd like to invest and know I'm taken care of later. So if you want to be that taken care of later kind of person, continue to dollar cost average. Just put a little bit in at a time whenever you have the funds available, and try to treat it more so like an investment instead of just a short-term trade. But again, on the short term here, it's not looking fantastic. I don't want to sugarcoat it at all for you. It's not looking phenomenal. It could be worse, but it's not looking great. All right, I don't know how else to describe it. So I hope that you can just be cautious and careful. Again, if you're dollar cost averaging effectively and the price goes up, you're still going to be in good shape. All right. I wouldn't recommend completely selling all of your positions or doing everything. Maybe trim some profitable positions if you have them. Those are less common right now. But if you do, of course, feel free to do that. But I would say at this point, we should wait for the market to recover, because even if the price comes back down, it'll inevitably come back up again. It cannot keep going down. Unless Bitcoin loses all value, there's no reason for that to happen. So again, big picture, I do feel Bitcoin will be tremendous value eventually, and within the next 5 to 10 years, I'm sure it'll be at least 6 figures, possibly even 7, depending on how far down the road you plan to invest. Because we got to be realistic here. The amount of Bitcoin that's available is diminishing. As that goes away, supply and demand, price goes up. It's just an inevitability in my personal opinion. So I'd say stock up on ETH and Bitcoin, and we'll see on the flip side there, right? See you in a few years. So anyways, I hope you found benefit. I know this is more of a rant today than it was an actual TA, but there's not a lot of TA to happen on the weekends, in truth. We can acknowledge that it's another low volume weekend. Most weekends are low volume, don't get me wrong. But the weekends we've been having recently, with the fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market because of the economic well-being or lack thereof, then we're seeing a diminished amount of interest over the weekends, which essentially just tells us that majority of the price action is all the whales just kind of going back and forth playing their games. So again, we want to be on the same page as them, and right now they're not giving us very good indications of what they want to do. We know that they like to spike it up and spike it down. We know that much. But other than that, we kind of just got to roll with it. So I would say be cautious with your stop losses. Dollar cost average wherever possible, and to keep some money set aside. Try not to feel like you have to just throw all your money in at any given time when you have it. Get used to holding, putting some money aside and having it ready in case we see another dip. So as bear flag continues, perhaps just say it breaks to the downside, then we can continue to add to our position and be happy about it, and not be sad that we went all in right now. Okay, that's why dollar cost averaging is important. You continue to add to your position as the price gets lower, and inevitably you'll have a much lower position, okay? Which is a good sign. That's a very good thing. So I hope you found benefit here. Thanks again for listening, and we'll look forward to seeing the next video, and that would be tomorrow. We'll see you then. Hope you have a good remainder of your weekend. Again, if you're not currently a community member, CryptoCache.tech is the site. Link in the description below if you want to become a better trader. I look forward to working with you. Have a great rest of your day.